Have you ever had this amazing idea for an app, right? A real game changer. But then you think, how do I actually get this thing built? Well, that journey from that first spark of an idea to a real working product, that's all powered by something called software project management. So today, let's dive into the blueprint that separates the brilliant ideas that succeed from the ones that, well, don't.
Okay, so let's start with a reality check. Get this. A huge analysis of over 13,000 projects way back in 2003 found that a staggering 43% of them went over budget. And you know what? Even with all the tech we have today, 2 decades later, this is still a massive, expensive problem.
So what gives? Why is this so common? The simple and kind of painful answer is mismanagement. When there's no clear plan, no roadmap, it costs billions of dollars and leaves countless incredible ideas just stranded on the launchpad. To really get why the solution is so important, we have to first understand the problem. And the cost of failure, it's not just about money. It's about all that wasted time, the lost opportunities, and frankly, the frustrated teams. Let's really look at what's at stake.
You see, these failures aren't just a string of bad luck. Research points the finger directly at a lack of a proven approach. And what that tells you is that success is absolutely not an accident. It's the result of a deliberate, structured process.
So, to build that proven approach, we've got to go back to square one. I mean, we can't really manage a project if we don't all agree on what a project even is. It sounds almost too simple, right? But trust me, this definition is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about.
Okay, so a project is a temporary, planned effort. The two big keywords here are temporary and unique. This is totally different from routine work, like, say, daily server maintenance. A project has a clear beginning and a clear end, and its whole purpose is to create something new, like building a brand new online shopping system from scratch.
This diagram here shows exactly where projects live. See, way over on the left, you've got routine jobs, things that are super predictable. Then, way over on the right, you have pure exploration, where the outcome is a total mystery. Projects, they're right there in that sweet spot in the middle. They have a clear goal, but just enough uncertainty that they need some careful, active management.
So when you boil it down, all projects, whether you're building an app or sending a rover to Mars, they all share these same core traits. Think about limited resources for a second. That's your budget and your deadline breathing down your neck. Or the fact that it's unique. You're making something that hasn't been made before, which automatically means you're dealing with the unknown. That's where the risk comes from, and that's exactly why management is so crucial. All right, so we've defined the challenge. Now let's talk about the solution. A great project manager doesn't just cross their fingers and hope for the best. Nope, they use a very specific toolkit of concepts and practices to steer the project home. Let's open up that toolkit. Software project management, or SPM for short, is the whole discipline of keeping these variables in check. Remember that 43% budget overrun we talked about? Well, controls costs right here is the direct answer to that. Ensures timely delivery is how you stop those deadlines from flying by. This isn't just a bunch of boring paperwork, it's the active process of steering the ship away from the rocks.
But to use that toolkit effectively, you have to speak the language. And there are 3 words that get thrown around and mixed up all the time, but they mean very different things. Getting this right is absolutely key. So let's break down the difference between plans, methods, and methodologies.
This table makes it crystal clear. Think of it like this. A plan is your roadmap. It tells you what needs to get done, when it needs to be done, and who is going to do it. Then you have a method. That's a specific technique for one small task, like unit testing. It answers how you do that one thing. And finally, you have the methodology. That's the big picture, the overarching framework like agile or waterfall. It's the philosophy that guides how you manage the entire project, the whole shebang.
Okay, so having a great plan and methodology is one thing, but how do you make sure everybody actually sticks to it? That's where you put it all down in writing. And that brings us to the project contract. Contract management is the formal process that turns your plan into a binding agreement that everyone has to follow. It's really the legal and procedural backbone of the whole project. It makes sure that both the client and the development team are protected and are on the exact same page for every single critical detail, from the cost and the schedule to the quality of the final product. This whole process follows a really clear life cycle. First, you prepare by defining the scope. For our online shopping system example, that means listing every feature, like the payment gateway. Then, you negotiate the terms, the timeline, the budget, all of it. Once it's signed, you monitor progress to make sure it lines up with the contract. You handle any changes through amendments, and finally,
You close it all out when the work is 100% done.
So why go through all this formal trouble? Why does this piece of paper matter so much? Because a contract, it's not just a legal document, it's a communication tool. It forces everyone to be crystal clear and gets rid of all the fuzzy assumptions that can lead to arguments later. It turns "I thought you meant" into "we agree to this," and that builds the trust and accountability you need to get to the finish line.
All right, let's wrap this up with the key takeaways. We've seen that so many projects fail simply because there's no structure. We defined what a project really is, a unique, temporary effort. We broke down the manager's toolkit into the plan, the what, the method, the how-to, and the methodology, the framework. And finally, we saw how contract management takes that whole blueprint and makes it official and actionable.
And in the end, that's really what it all comes down to. This is what separates a hopeful idea from a successful product that's actually out there in the world. So the question I'll leave you with is this: is your next project built on hope, or is it built on a plan?